This was recorded at the Living Grace Sangha in Marin, California on the 27th of November 2019. All recorded materials are copyrighted by Miranda Macpherson, and any unauthorized duplication of these materials is strictly prohibited. For information about Miranda and her work, please visit www.mirandamacpherson.com.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
I'd like to start with a reading. This is another adaptation from A Course in Miracles. Gratitude is a lesson hard to learn for those who look upon the world amiss. The most the separated self can do is see that it is better off than others, and then try to be content because another suffers more than they. Do not offer thanks because your brother or sister is more of a slave than you, nor envy his or her good fortune. Love makes no comparisons. Rather, give thanks to your source, but in sincerity, and let your gratitude make room for all those who will escape with you: the sick, the weak, the needy and afraid, and those who mourn a loss or feel pain, those who suffer cold or hunger, or who walk the way of hatred. Let us not split our consciousness off from the unity that we share with everyone. Thank God for one thing alone, that we are separate from no living thing, and that our unity is intact. Rejoice that no exceptions ever can be made which would reduce our wholeness, nor change our function to complete the one who is completion itself. We give thanks for every living thing, for otherwise we give thanks for nothing, and we fail thus to recognize the blessings of our life. So let us recognize and give thanks. And from our recognition, let our brothers and sisters lean their tired heads against our shoulders that they may rest a while. For if we can welcome them to the peace that we would find, the way opens at last to us. An ancient door swings free again. A long-forgotten word re-echoes in our memory and gathers clarity as we are willing once again to hear the truth and live into it. Let us walk then in gratitude, the way of love. Gorgeous stuff, huh? Given that it's Thanksgiving time, it felt appropriate to open that subject up in a deeper way. And we all know that many people, the culture here in America celebrates Thanksgiving, and for a Native American Indian peoples, it's not necessarily such a celebration. It means something different to them. But as is with any big kind of cultural tradition, such as the ones that we're entering into in this coming holiday season, there's spiritual truth at the core of them that is actually universal and that is valuable for us to harness so that we can move through these times where we have collective agreements to focus on certain things in a way that has richness and depth and meaning and helps us to live into our practice more substantially. And so every spiritual tradition understands the importance of gratitude for helping us to live richly, live meaningfully, to celebrate, to be fulfilled, to be happy, to resolve that state of impoverishment that is the primary state of ego. And it's important that we understand how to really work with gratitude in a way that isn't just hallmark, kind of writing a list and, looking at it superficially, and that we go deeper into what gratitude actually is, what it asks of us, and how it really interacts with this whole overarching focus on grace, which is what unifies everything we do here at the Sangha. So ultimately, gratitude is something that's very natural. We naturally feel it when we are aware of being blessed. So in a way, gratitude is the fragrance that emerges out of our heart when we feel the touch of divine presence in some way. When we recognize that we're blessed, that we have been given a gift. When we feel the kiss of the goodness upon us in some way, it's absolutely natural for our heart to open deeply and to not just sort of say thank you for something or to someone, but to really let it be that deep and sincere in our heart where there's a fullness, there's a naturalness, there's a palpable recognition of being given a gift. So last week we were exploring, resistance and our curriculum and looking at the material of our life as a curriculum, as a divine classroom of learning and evolution and growth. And we were exploring where we dig our heels in and say, no, I don't like that curriculum. I want a different curriculum, thank you very much. I'm looking at another person's curriculum that looks more exciting or interesting or juicy or appealing than mine. And so some very important work happened in the room. I know it wasn't an easy line of inquiry, it was pretty confronting, but very important to learn to relax the ways in which we are saying no to what's being asked of us by the mystery of grace as it presents itself in our life. And to instead find a way to open into what's here, even though it might be difficult, even though it may be asking for some kind of pruning, or it might be asking us to let go of something that we're attached to, or some familiar habit or pattern or way of being. And of course, when you look more deeply, you see that when we're being asked to let go of something, that too is the blessings of grace. It is trying to sort of clean us up or clear out something. Rumi speaks about it in his poem, The Guest House, that each morning there's a new arrival. And he speaks of the curriculum as these guests that come into our house, and some of them make a big mess or overtip the furniture, and Rumi reminds us, but welcome them in. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. And so it takes a lot of spiritual maturation to recognize that even when the conditions are more challenging, that it is really grace trying to open us, evolve us, heal us, help us see something, help us soften up, let go, surrender, yield to a different truth, or a deeper truth, should I say. And that as we learn to say yes rather than no, we start to feel the grace in and amidst the circumstances. We can start to feel that there is meaning to the mystery of what's happening, that is not by chance. And the more we see that, the more it helps us to be humble and gracious in the face of all that happens and all that is asked of us, and to hang in there and trust our curriculum and work with it honestly, to accept it. And in the accepting of our curriculum, we experience transformation starting to happen. And that's beautiful too, because it reminds us that in this whole process of transformation through grace, there is certainly a lot that is asked of us. Mostly what's asked of us is to learn how to stay, to not leave ourselves, to say yes rather than no, to be interested and sincere in what is being asked or what is being shown or revealed, and to be open to the learning and the evolution that's presenting itself. And I've been speaking about this so far on a personal level, but it's also on a group level, right? Like here in Northern California, I think we're all starting to realize the realities of climate change really are upon us, and that there is an invitation for us as a society here in Northern California to, to evolve a little more quickly, let's put it that way, to adapt and to change and to not resist what isn't working, and to truly come off our sort of self-centeredness on a collective level and recognize the spiritual truth that is really obvious, actually, that we really do need one another. We need to help one another a lot more than we have been living. So there's these group invitations, and then there's the larger overarching collective ones too, that we're being asked to say yes to. And as we say yes, we notice that somehow things get sloughed off. We wake up one morning and we just don't feel that grievance anymore. Or there's a brightness in our spirits or a lightness in our step. The heaviness has gone, and there's more generosity or humility, there's more virtue, there's more openness, there's more clarity just presenting itself. And in a way that speaks to how it's really grace that is the agency of transformation, that dances with our sincerity and our rightful effort and our practice and our showing up and our looking at ourselves and our learning to stay present and relax and face things. And Hafiz puts it very beautiful. He says, "This is the kind of friend you are. Without making me fully realize my soul's anguished history, you slip into my house at night, and while I am sleeping, you silently carry off all my suffering and sordid past in your beautiful hands." It's like that sometimes. I'm sure you've experienced it, where you've been doing your best, you've been crunching through some difficult material for a while and deepening your commitment and working with your resistance and showing up for your practice, and then somehow it's a miracle, really. You wake up and there's something has happened and you can't really say when it happened. So I love that poem. It speaks very clearly to me how I have experienced the miraculous nature of the transforming power of grace as it moves through us, our lives, and as it moves through one another. How sometimes we're pierced by the wisdom that someone will say when we're not expecting anything particularly wise to come through, or when we're on a walk and the sweetness of a little bird chirping pierces our heart and we receive the sense of being penetrated by something that is so beautiful and loving and good that's everywhere. Or we go for a hike and we get to the top of that mountain, and the way we feel when we're looking at everything from such a big view, and there's space in our consciousness all of a sudden, and we have perspective on our troubles, and there's peace that comes upon us. So in these moments, it's natural to say thank you, isn't it? When we feel the grace upon us, producing more space or a felt sense of being loved somehow by life or a friend, or we feel the goodness kind of contacting us internally in some important way that is healing or nourishing or clarifying. It's very natural to say thank you. And it's important to say thank you. It's not that the divine needs us to say thank you. Right? The divine, the absolute, doesn't need any pat on the back from us. But that we need to acknowledge what is. We need to acknowledge the goodness. We need to recognize it. We need to take it in. And it's when we take it in deeply and say thank you that we recognize deeply that we're blessed. It's just what's so. And then there's a felt sense of our energy circulating, isn't there? There's a sense of flow that comes back to us like a fountain that had stopped pumping for a while, all of a sudden starts to pump again up through the center line of our being, through our belly and our heart and our mind, and it extends and makes us naturally generous. We circulate love and kindness and goodness and forgiveness, and we're just more fully human. And that's really what's important in saying thank you. In saying both the yes and the thank you. In fact, it's actually a very beautiful practice for life. Every inhale can be a yes. Every exhale can be a thank you. And it doesn't even matter if you don't know who or what you're saying thank you to. Often it's like that. It doesn't matter whether you have a name or a cosmology for that which you're saying thank you to. It just matters that you say it. It just matters that you open to this mystery that is nourishing and loving and healing and intelligent, and that knows the way for you to be free and whole, and to therefore, as the Course in Miracles was saying, to fulfill your function, to really be that, to be the embodiment of that freedom and that wholeness, to extend the purpose of that which sent you. There's a line in a prayer within A Course in Miracles. It's called the Miracle Worker's Prayer, where it speaks of that we are all here to represent that which sent us. Take that in for a moment. The prayer goes, I am here in existence, in this moment, wherever we are. I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent that which sent me. Isn't that beautiful? I do not have to worry about what to say or do, because that which sent me will direct me. I am content just to be here, knowing that your grace goes with me, and I will be healed as I let the transmission happen. So that last line is very profound also, that as we allow the radiation, the sharing of what we have received, it can only happen when we acknowledge it. It can only happen when we've said yes and we've said thank you, and that it's starting to circulate, that it becomes embodied as we share it with others, as we share through our way of being, through our presence, through our being generous, through our embodying forgiveness, through our spaciousness in the way we are with one another, that we allow others to be magnetically drawn into a restful abiding. One of the things that Ramana said a great deal, and he wasn't the only one that said it, was the invitation to keep good company. You might have heard that from other masters or teachers, to be mindful, the company you keep, because we rub off on one another. It's obvious, right? You don't have to be enlightened to recognize that pretty basic truth. But when we keep good company, we actually feel the transmission and the radiance of one another. And so we want to become that radiance, that wholeness, that generosity, that forgiveness, that kindness, that empathy, that deeper humanity. And we can only become that when we receive it fully and acknowledge it fully. And when we receive and when we acknowledge fully, it is utterly natural to share it. Is that not your experience? When you have received something that is so true and beautiful and real and deep, doesn't your heart want that for everybody? I know mine does. That's why I teach and share this. I wake up many mornings having all sorts of realizations and insights, often as I'm just lying in bed. And the minute that happens, very close afterwards is, how can I help other people share this? How can they have this too? It's like, it's so natural. How can this go exponential? How can everybody have it? When we're opened to what's true, when we're permeated by grace, we feel our love for everyone on the planet, and we recognize we're one with them. And we feel the truth that, what's natural is sharing our bounty in whatever way we possibly can. Is that not the true spirit of Thanksgiving, ultimately? I mean, I'm new to America, but that's what I've observed. It's not my native tradition, but it seems to me that's what's really true about it. What's traditional is, if we know that somebody is on their own, we invite them over. We invite them to their table. We make a meal together. We participate. We share. We give thanks. We just give thanks. And we eat of that feast together until we're really full. Right?
Can you repeat the last line?
The Hafiz? I'll read it again. It's so lovely. This is the kind of friend you are. Without making me realize my soul's anguish history, you slip into my house at night, and while I am sleeping, you silently carry off all of my suffering and sordid past in your beautiful hands. It's a poem called Beautiful Hands. Yeah. So really, gratitude isn't really a trying or a technique or writing a list, although there's nothing wrong with that if that rocks your boat. It's more the arrival of the fountain as it starts to bubble up within your heart and bring back online the remembrance of the mystery and the goodness within the mystery that helps us to be optimistic, even though climate change is clearly upon us, even though there are so many things in this world that could easily trigger us into despair, even though we may have to deal with things like cancer and diabetes and financial difficulties and divorce and difficult children and all the rest. Nevertheless, grace is. And it's time for us to bow in recognition. So, I have an inquiry tonight, but before we go into the inquiry, I want to lead a meditation first. So instead of the kind of format where we look at our obstacles and stuff in the inquiry, we're going to do that part in the meditation in a reflective form. So I want to give you longer for the looping part, which is a really lovely inquiry on what it's like for us when we recognize that we are blessed. So I'm going to give you all the inquiry questions now so we can set up with our partner and all of that. But before we launch into the inquiry, I'm going to lead you in the meditation. Actually, I'm going to one of these for myself. Thank you. Okay, so find an inquiry partner and just set yourselves up and then we'll settle into the meditation. Thanks, Hank. Is there anyone without a partner? Okay. You can come work with me, Suzanne, if you like. Or you can join a triad. What would you prefer? Okay. Get this. All right, friends. So let's settle in for the meditation part of this. And then we're going to go into the inquiry, the double repeating questions done as a looping. So you've all been around long enough to know what that format is, right? So one of you gives the question, what's it like in body, heart, mind when you recognize you're blessed? Thank you. How can this recognition flow deeper into your life? Thank you. Then you switch, right? Those two questions, and then back and forth with those two questions. Is that clear? Great. All right. So let's close our eyes for a moment. So focus on the rise and fall of your breath. And explore what limits you from recognizing and receiving the grace that flows through your life. For example, do you get caught in comparison? What limits you from recognizing and receiving grace flowing through your life? Do you get caught in grievances, holding on to hurt or anger? What limits you from recognizing and receiving grace flowing through your life? Is it hard for you to let goodness truly penetrate your heart? Perhaps for fear that it would make you too open, too vulnerable. Just see. What limits you from recognizing and receiving grace flowing through your life? See what you find. That keeps you just apart. Keeps your heart somewhat closed. And notice the sensations and the energy in your body. Just bringing your awareness to contact whatever you find. Just touching it from the inside. Contacting any closure you find. With compassion and curiosity. And breathe. What limits you from recognizing and receiving grace flowing through your life? Refuse to judge yourself for whatever you find, but rather celebrate what you can see about your limitations, your resistance, your holding back. And remember that whatever is exposed to the light itself becomes light. And let's go further with the inquiry questions. Really letting the questions deep into your body and heart and mind. Being detailed in your responses so that your consciousness can expand. What's it like in body, heart, and mind when you recognize you are blessed? Followed by, how can this recognition flow deeper into your life?